Hey guys, it's Tori, and today I'm going to be doing the Accomplished Women book tag, which was created by Coiny Reads. This is based on the novel Pride and Prejudice during the scene in which Darcy, Elizabeth, and Caroline Bingley are all discussing what makes an accomplished woman, and it's definitely one of the most iconic scenes from Pride and Prejudice, which I think is a lot of fun, and I figured this would be a great way to kick off Jane Austen July. So we're going to get started on this. I was not tagged by anyone as far as I know. If you did tag me and I just didn't realize it, feel free to let me know in the comments and I will link your channel in the description below. But again, as far as I know, I don't think I've been tagged by anyone. I just decided to do this again in preparation as a kickoff, I guess, for Jane Austen July. So the first thing that an accomplished woman must have a knowledge of is music. So the prompt for this one is favorite literary musician. So this was kind of a hard question for me. I just can't really remember a lot of really good musicians, but I think I'm going to just go with Jane Austen as a great representative of musicians in her novels, and specifically I want to mention Marianne Dashwood from Sense and Sensibility. This has slowly but surely risen up in my rankings on Jane Austen novels. I have come to really enjoy this one. In fact, I think at this point it's my second favorite. I still have yet to read Persuasion, so we'll see how that goes, but I really love Sense and Sensibility a lot. The only one that beats it is Emma, and it's just by a little bit. Like, honestly, there could be some days when I say Sense and Sensibility is my favorite, but I think on the whole, Emma usually is what I consider my favorite as of right now. But specifically on Marianne as a musician, I just find her very intriguing, and her role as a musician is very intriguing within the context of the story. It kind of adds to her personality level of being the one that's full of sensibility, as opposed to Eleanor, her sister's sense. And so I feel like that music and the passion she puts into her music really shows that off, and so I think it's a really interesting way that Marianne's music actually plays into the title of the piece, and I just love how Jane Austen does that. Plus, in the adaptations, I love seeing how dramatic Marianne is sometimes when she's playing the piano. I just absolutely love it. So definitely going to go with Marianne for that one. Number 2 is singing. What is a poetry recommendation? And I really don't read much poetry, so I'm just going to lean on a book of poetry that I have been reading for a long time. I've talked about a lot the past month for Ancients-a-thon, but I'm just going to mention it because, again, I just don't really read poetry collections, so I'm very limited on what to talk about with that, but I'm going to go with the Lais of Marie de France. Technically, these are more supposed to be songs, but I mean, songs are poetry, right? So they're all very story-like, they're all fairy tales. My favorite one that I feel like is the most poetic in nature is Chèvrefail. So that one I'm going to specifically recommend if you don't necessarily want to read the whole collection, but I do think all of them are really wonderful and entertaining. I mean, on a poetry level, people may not see her as a great poet, but for me, it's a poetry collection that I did enjoy the whole thing. I did get really into, whereas I'm not a huge poetry reader in general, so to say that I liked this one is a pretty big thing for me personally. Prompt 3 is drawing. What is a book with a beautiful cover? And I just love all of my Barnes & Noble leather bounds. I'm going to include some clips right here to show them off because I don't have them all with me right now, but I absolutely love them. They're just so gorgeous. The designs on them are so wonderful. I love the end pages. I love that they all contain the little bookmark. I like the different colors. I just love the foil on the cover. I just love looking at them. I would love to have more, but I also want to keep myself from, buying books that I already own. But I do really enjoy looking at them and love to decorate my shelves with them. Question 4, dancing, a book with a lively plot. For this one, I'm going to go with a read that I haven't mentioned very much recently, but it's one I really love, and I want to mention it a little bit more because I think other people, especially if you like classics, would enjoy, and like historical fiction, would really enjoy this series. So the first book in the series is My Lady Jane by Brodi, Ashton, Cynthia and Jodi Meadows. I always want to make sure I catch all of their names right. But this particular story is a retelling of the story of Lady Jane Grey, who was Queen of England for 9 days in between the death of Edward VI and then the beginning of the reign of Mary I, or Bloody Mary as she's often known as. And this story sort of twists the history a little bit by making things a lot more supernatural than they were in the original story. For example, instead of Protestants versus Catholics, it's actually toying with the idea of shapeshifters versus non-shapeshifters. And it's a really, really fun, humorous story. It's just very lively. It's very entertaining. The plot moves very quickly. There's a lot going on just in the historical setting anyway, but on top of that, having this supernatural element just adds a lot of fun and humorous aspects to it, and I really enjoyed it all the way through. Like, I flew through it. I actually, not long after finishing it, ended up starting to read it to my friend while we were on this big long road trip. We didn't quite make it through it, but it was just really easy to get into, and definitely one I would recommend if you want something a little easier, that's quick-paced, and will be entertaining. Prompt number 5, modern languages, your favorite translated fiction, and I definitely have to go with Les Misérables by Victor Hugo. This is one of my favorite books of all time, like top 5 favorite books of all time. I absolutely love this book. It's just so well done. It was translated from French, and it's just a wonderful, wonderful story. I'm just in love with it. Even all the little tangents and things, while they're not my favorite parts, because I love the story so much, those things don't even bother me. And in fact, I think on a reread, I may even appreciate those portions more, because it's just getting deeper into this world of Les Mis that I just absolutely adore. It's just so wonderful. It hits me in all the feels, in all the right ways, and has so many characters that I'm just fascinated by, and it's just such a good story. Definitely read it. Give it a try in some way. If you read an abridged version, if you just watch the film, do something with it, because the story is just so wonderful. I think everybody should take the time to experience it in some way, because it's just so marvelous. Prompt 6, something in her air and manner of walking, a book with a strong atmosphere. Sorry if the angle's a little bit different. We had to pause for a second. My roommate just came home, but let me remind myself what the prompt was. It was something in her air and manner of walking, a book with a strong atmosphere, and I'm going to go with The 13th Tale by Diane Setterfield, or Bellman in Black by Diane Setterfield. Really, she just has a great way of creating atmosphere that's gothic and dark and eerie, that even when there's not really much happening in the story, there's still this overwhelming sense of dread in a lot of her stories, and I really love the way she's able to create that atmosphere. I have yet to read Once Upon a River, but I have heard that one also has great atmosphere, so I'm excited to give it a read. But definitely Diane Setterfield in general, and for this I'm specifically going to mention The 13th Tale because it is my favorite of the two I've read by her. So good, so gothic. If you love Victorian literature, you definitely should read this one. I think you'll love it, and there's a great plot twist at the end that I did not see coming, but I loved how well it fit into the story, and it's just an amazing book. Definitely check it out. Prompt 7 is the tone of her voice, her address and expressions, a book with beautiful writing. And for this one, I'm going to go with The Girl Who Drank the Moon by Kelly Barnhill. I read this at the beginning of this year. It's a middle grade fantasy, and it's one that I absolutely really enjoyed. It definitely pulled me in, and the writing was so elegant in a way that was very gripping without being over the top. Prompt 8, improvement of her mind by extensive reading. What is your next read? And when you're seeing this, my next read will be Persuasion by Jane Austen. This is my novel of choice for Jane Austen July, and I'm actually buddy reading it with Katja Weinert from Read, Write, Create, and this is her favorite Jane Austen novel, so I'm extra excited to buddy read it with her since she loves it so much. It's definitely a much shorter Jane Austen novel, so I'm very curious to see how it goes, because the other one that's about close to this size is Northanger Abbey, and that's my least favorite Jane Austen novel. So I'm not sure if it's because of the length or for other reasons. I mean, there's definitely other reasons, but I don't know how much the length played into that. So I'm curious to see if that has an impact on my reading of this, or if not, if maybe this story will just grip me all the way through and I'll end up having a new favorite Jane Austen. I don't know, we'll see. I really have no expectations for where this is going to end up on my rankings, so we'll just see how it goes. But I am very excited to pick this up, not only because I think it will be a great book, hopefully, but also because it's my last of her full-length novels that I have yet to read, and then I can just dig into rereading all her other novels over and over and over throughout the rest of my life. I will obviously still have a lot of her shorter works to go through, but at least as far as her full-length novels go, I will have completed them all, which is so exciting. Question 9, would you be considered accomplished by Caroline Bingley and Mr. Darcy's standards? And unfortunately, I don't believe so. Music-wise, I learned some piano, but I'm very, very untalented at it. I have not practiced much since I learned, and so I have not retained that skill at all. Singing, I do sing. Not super well, but I do sing. I've taken some vocal classes and my family's pretty musical, so had to have something, and singing was my choice. Drawing, awful at drawing, just, yeah, no. It's one of those things where I often am like, I'm just a horrible artist. And you know, some people say that because they're all feel sad about it, and then people feel the need to be like, oh no, I'm sure you're not that bad. I'm at the point with my skill with drawing where I'm like, I'm a bad artist, and like, I don't need anybody to tell me otherwise. Like, I know I'm a bad artist and I'm totally fine with it. I can appreciate other people's art and I'm fine with that. I don't need people to try to make me feel better about it, because I don't feel bad about the fact that I'm a bad artist. It's just the way it is. So anyway, but definitely not accomplished in that area. Dancing, I mean, I'm not an awful dancer, but I definitely haven't learned how to dance since I was in like first grade, so definitely not a big dancer. My sister, on the other hand, is a very great dancer, so I can plug in for her a little bit, but I unfortunately am not very skilled at that. Modern languages, I know English and I'm learning some French slowly but surely, but that's about it. And my French, I took 2 years in college and did pretty well with it, and now I just do Duolingo every day. So I mean, I'm practicing regularly, but not in like actual conversation. So yeah, not super talented at that, but I'm looking at it. As far as something in her air and manner of walking, I actually have been told by people that they like the way I walk, that I walk very confidently, which, you know, I think for me, I just grew up with a dad who walked super fast, so I just kind of had to add a little bounce to my step to keep up with him. But yeah, I've been told that I have a very confident walk, so I guess that's accomplished. The tone of her voice, her address, and expressions, I have been complimented by people that I carry myself very well and that I can carry a conversation fairly well, but I also have social anxiety, so sometimes I'm not doing as well as other times, you know what I'm saying? It just depends on the situation, so probably not particularly accomplished in that. And improvement of the mind by extensive reading, of course. I have a booktube channel. Everybody on booktube can say that they do extensive reading to strengthen their mind, so definitely accomplished there. So, you know, I have some accomplishments, but I'm probably not, by far not, the most accomplished woman, unfortunately, by Caroline Bingley and Mr. Darcy's standards. Anyway, that is it. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know down below some of your answers to these questions. As far as tagging people, I guess I'll just tag a few random people. If you've done this already, again, don't worry about doing it again. Will not be offended. I know it's been around since, I think it started October of last year, so I understand if you've already done it. But if you haven't, I would like to see these people do it. Man, I really think a lot of the people I want to tag have already done it, but I'm just gonna tag them just in case they haven't, so that I can push them to do it, because these are people I genuinely want to see do this tag. So I'm going to say Naomi's Bookshelf. I'm fairly certain Katya Read Write Create did this already, but if she hasn't, since she's buddy reading with me for Persuasion, I'm going to tag her if she hasn't done it. Again, I think she might have. I think Naomi might have too, but whatever. I feel like Milena Reads also did this tag, but I'm going to tag her just in case. And I'm going to tag one more just because I think I'm going to tag David Wiley just to add a little bit of testosterone to this list. I feel like I've tagged him in several tags recently, so I apologize, David, if you're kind of bothered by that, but there you go. Those are the 4 I'm tagging for the Accomplished Woman book tag. Thank you again for watching, and I will see you next time.